this gentleman. Um, Looking forward to it today. Yes, it's going to be interesting on this. I think people will really enjoy what you have to say here today. I'm excited.
So.
I'm
yeah,
excited.
I am too. Mm-hmm.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Kyle Miller Show. I'm your host, obviously, Kyle Miller. I'm here today to bring you stories of people who are doing fascinating things with their lives, doing amazing things, taking life by the horns and making it happen. And that's what I want to bring you all to the show. I want to bring you people that may inspire you to do something different with your life, may inspire you to go out and make that change that you're looking for. And with today, our guest today owns Vortex Flight School. Okay, he's an instructor there as well, private pilot, and also flies in Alaska's backcountry, dropping off hunters and fishermen and all of that. So I'm just really excited to hear what he's got to share with us today. Please welcome Lakey Harkrader.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Kyle. I'm super excited to be here, and I've been looking forward to this for a while. So,
man, I'm excited, and I have to let everybody know, guys. I have been working on my private pilot's license, and I've taken a little bit of a hiatus. I've had a ton of things going on in my life right now. I am like literally 2 hours away from my private pilot's license. So I've been working with Lakey a lot. I've gone up in the air with him. He's taught me. He's trained me. He's taught me a lot about flying. So I wanted to bring him on here today because his story's kind of cool. He's got a lot of things going on in his life. He's a young dude making it happen, and I just thought it would be pretty cool to share this story. Lakey, Randolph-Macon College. Did you always want to be a pilot?
No, that's a good question. I actually, I didn't. It wasn't something growing up that I really thought all that much about. I think it wasn't something I really thought all that hard about because it wasn't. No one in my family. I've got one. My mom's cousin is a private pilot. Doesn't fly a whole lot, but other than that, I didn't have anyone in the family who was in the aviation industry, and so it always seemed like this kind of far out thing that was almost like untouchable, kind of unreachable. It's just
right.
One of those things like out there that I didn't really think all that hard about until I guess really after college.
Okay.
So I graduated from Randolph-Macon with an economics and business degree and worked for Faulkner Construction Company here in Charlottesville for a couple years.
Yeah.
And a great job, great company to work for. But I always had this thing in the back of my head that was telling me you're going to regret it down the road if you don't, going from high school to college straight into an office job,
right.
If you don't go try something else. And so one of the things that I had always talked about growing up with my best friend was working for a big game hunting outfitter out west. And so I got connected to kind of through my friend who was out guiding in Idaho and Montana and Wyoming and a little bit in Alaska. Through a connection he had, I got up to Alaska and started working under a guide, hunting brown bear and mountain goat, and worked into a guide position there. And that's what kind of started the avenue towards aviation.
Alaska, the flights didn't even get you to Alaska. Like the pilot's license didn't get you to Alaska. It was,
right.
Hey, I want to go be a big game, guide.
Right.
And go help people, all over and get to experience the mountains and the backcountry and just that whole lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
And now you're sitting there going, well, like how does the flight come in?
Yeah.
Because I mean that's an adventure on itself, right?
Yeah.
So you must be back there and you're packing things out, and like a plane lands and you're like, well, how's that guy get that? How's he do that?
Yeah, yeah. There's, everybody and their brother has a pilot license in Alaska, it seems like. And so I got to fly in a lot of bush planes, with the big Tundra tires, Super Cubs, and Beavers on floats. And they're small planes, so you get to talk to the pilots and get to know the pilots. And,
right.
And guiding's a seasonal job. And so, I started, I guess, throughout that whole time period, I was thinking, what do I want to do long term that aligns with career goals and, the lifestyle I want to see? Because guiding, seasonal jobs are very, it's a different lifestyle. It's,
right.
You don't do it for, it's just a completely different lifestyle. So you've got to want to live that lifestyle. And, for a while it's great, it was great for me, but I knew long term I was going to want something that was more, I could have a family and not be gone for, months in the wilderness at a time. And so,
right.
Talking to the pilots, the bush pilots up there and getting to do some really cool flying with them, got me thinking harder and harder about, getting my pilot license and going down that road. So
that's pretty cool. I mean, I'm sure the sights and views of just flying. I mean, I know just around this area, right?
Yeah.
But like you put yourself in those mountains and you get to see the views of everything that's there.
Yeah,
and
it's pretty amazing.
I'll tell you, the most freeing feeling that I think I've ever had, right, was not the first day of solo, right? It was like a couple days after, of going up in the air, because first day of solo, it's kind of like really stressing, like, oh, what's going on? I got to make sure everything's right. But after you get a little more comfortable with it, you kind of calm down and you know what to expect and you know what's happening and you get over that first feeling, and then but I remember taking off and going up, and I was going out over Lake Anna, and it was just like, holy cow. Like, I'm up here, nobody else is up here, I'm by myself, and I can go anywhere I want to go. Yeah. And it was just like this truly like freeing feeling.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. It's one of those things where one of those things that you can do, and it takes, it's not like it's, like you said, it's not like it's always just an intense thing. Like there are periods that are like that first solo that, you can be kind of stressed out because it's your first time in a plane in the air on your own. There's no fallback, but, it's one of those things that you can do and kind of forget about everything else. Mm-hmm. And like, that's what you're doing. When you're flying, you're like in the air flying, and it's, right. Yeah, it's pretty special.
Yeah, definitely is. So tell me, like, you decide you're backcountry. You decide you don't want to guide anymore. You're looking into different things of a lifestyle and stuff, and you just happen to be like, oh, I want to be a pilot.
Yeah, guiding's one of the things I still do seasonally. It wasn't quite like I need another switch, another complete change. It started as more, what can I do to fill in? What can I do to fill in the rest of the year? Mm-hmm. That's not, construction or, for a while I went back and worked for Faulkner Construction in the field, and it was a great thing to fill in the seasons between the hunting. Fall and spring hunting season. But every time I came back home and was just working in the field construction, I didn't feel like I was working towards anything. So it was just like treading water for months until I went back to Alaska, and I was like, well, something's got to change. I've got to figure out where to go. And yeah, so I started after, getting to experience flying in Alaska and talking to the pilots up there. It's like, wow, aviation really checks a lot of the boxes for me that I'd love in a career. Mm-hmm. there's all sorts of different types of schedules. You know, as a commercial pilot, you know, flying for hire, there's all sorts of different jobs that allow for different types of schedules. So if you want to be home and with your family, there's jobs for that. If you want to make a lot of money, there's jobs for that. You know, there's all sorts of different avenues you can go down in aviation. You know, if I wanted to move to Alaska, there's, you know, amazing flying jobs up there. I mean, that's like
Right.
the pinnacle. And so, you know, when I realized it fit with, you know, what I'd want to see long term and something that I could do year round, you know, until retirement, it's, you know, then, you know, I was thinking about it harder and harder. And so finally I just decided to do it.
Yeah.
And, you know, after my first flight, it just kind of took over my life. So,
Yeah. So you got
I
the
love
you
it.
got the bug, and you just
Yeah.
continued and want to learn more and more and more of this.
Yeah, it's addicting.
And so you're thinking about those flights, you're thinking about what kind of career paths you can have, and now you've kind of turned it into a business for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And this being one of those options that you can have as you know, a pilot, right? You can be
Yeah.
a certified flight instructor.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so now you teach people to fly, and that's what your whole business is right now.
Yeah, it is. And it's been really rewarding. You know, I get to work one-on-one with people. And, you know, it's funny, something I've thought about over the years is, in a lot of ways, it's there's a lot of similarities between my job as a flight instructor and my job as a guide, because I'm working one-on-one with someone. And a lot of times it's, not always, but a lot of times it's something this person's like dreamed about doing for a long time.
Right.
And so I get to help that person do what they've wanted to do for, you know, since they were little.
Right.
And so it can be really rewarding in that aspect. And, you know, I'm sharing my passion too, like both jobs. But, you know, I love guiding and I love flying, and I get to share that as a flight instructor and teach people how to fly and, you
Right.
know, get them into the industry. And so, you know, it also, on top of that, as a flight instructor, you know, they say you never learn more about a subject than when you have to teach it. And so
Right.
that's allowed me to become, you know, a much better pilot myself when I have to constantly, you know, refresh and review and study myself, or, you know, work through new problems, get asked all sorts of questions that I've never thought of myself by people. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's definitely been really rewarding.
I mean, that's cool. When you say, you know, this has been kind of like a lifelong dream for some of the people that are trying to come in and get their pilot's license, but you just talked about all these different careers. What do you think that there is that most of the public doesn't know about becoming a pilot? Because I know in school when I was there, I mean, I was never told, hey, you can be a pilot. Like, that was not part of the curriculum that you could, like, hey, you go to college. It was more like, go to college, you can be a doctor, you can be this, you can be that. It was never like, be a pilot.
Right.
Right. So, like, what is it that somebody would have to go through, or what's the steps in order for that to happen? And do you have to have like special certifications before you get a pilot's license?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good question, because same with me growing up. You know, like I said earlier, I guess is not something I ever thought about. It's not really in high schools, but it's really another trade school, and I think it's a phenomenal trade school. You know, most flying jobs, I'm not going to say all of them, and it's changed over the years, and I think it's, you know, more and more flying jobs don't require a college education.
Okay.
You know, a lot of times it's a bonus, you know, a plus, like looks good on the resume for sure, and
Right.
and you know, is always a good fallback. But you know, at the end of the day, you don't have to go to college to be a commercial pilot, even at the airline level, which is, you know, the top really in the industry.
So you don't have to have a degree to be a commercial airliner, like
Right.
to work for American
Yeah.
Airlines.
Yeah, there might be some. I haven't researched each one hard, but
Okay.
I know it's dropped off. Where
Okay.
there's definitely some.
So
that
this
you
is a
don't-
career path that some kids could get into if they don't really like anything else.
Yeah, yeah, and it's looking at the cost between going to college versus going through private instrument commercial ratings to where you can fly for hire.
Right.
It's it looks expensive to fly, and it's not cheap for sure, but you take 4 years of college and put it next to getting your commercial pilot license, and it's a fraction of what college costs. So
Yeah.
it's a phenomenal trade school really, and can make for a amazing career.
Now, for the people that don't know, like, what could those type of pilots make? Like, if somebody's listening to this, going, man, I was really wanting a different career path. I don't really like what I'm doing. Like,
Yeah.
what is, if they looked into this? What is something like that? What do commercial
Yeah.
pilots? What's the salary ranges that are out there for them?
Yeah, it's pretty big range, but with some time in the industry and in the airlines, the captains are making $300,000-$400,000 a year.
Okay.
Plus probably.
Okay.
And there's so many different avenues you can go down in the industry that it ranges from the bottom all the way up to that. And
Okay.
so like anything, it's building experience and time and different types of planes or whatever.
Right.
You're getting hired to fly and going through their training and working from a first officer, essentially co-pilot position, to captain position. That's like you start as a first officer, and you're helping the pilot with the flight and with radios maybe, or
Right.
And then you move once you learn the plane and learn that particular skill set to fly that plane, and doing the type of flying that they're doing. Then you move into a captain position, and
Yeah.
depending on your prior experience and the particular company you're working for,
Right.
that'll when you move from first officer to captain will like the time frame will change, but
Yeah.
there's so many different avenues you can go down that there's, if you enjoy flying, there's something for everyone. You can be a flight instructor, you can be a bush pilot in Alaska, you can do crop dusting, you can do pipeline patrol, flying like inspections, essentially surveying,
Yeah.
charter operations, and all over the country, all over the world,
Yeah.
airlines, corporate stuff. Like it's just endless.
And so we were just looking up, guys, before the show started. There's actually over, 10,000 planes in any given time in the air during the course of the day.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of planes in the air.
Yeah.
Every single day.
Yeah.
And those, who knows how many people those planes are carrying
Yeah.
each day. So we didn't even get into that number.
A lot of people in the air.
Yeah, a lot of
Kinda
people in
funny
the
to
air
think about.
every single day.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes into two things. Like, two questions that are coming to mind on this. One is, what's the process like to get a license like that? I know you kind
Yeah.
of alluded to that. You get your private pilot's license, get your IFR, get your CFI. Like,
Yeah.
what does that process look like?
Yeah, so you can get your private pilot license, which is essentially just the first thing everyone gets. You get your
Right.
private pilot license, and it's like getting your driver's license. So that allows you to fly any single-engine airplane wherever you want in the country, really. It just opens up the door. Now you can fly planes, and day or night. There's not a whole lot of limitations on it. You can't fly for hire. Need the commercial license to do that. You can't fly in certain low visibility conditions. So you can get your private pilot license
And how old do you have to be to get that?
at 17.
17.
Yeah, 17. So
Okay.
you can do it in high school. I actually just had a girl, her name's Skylar, who started with me back.
The name was made for her.
Yeah. Yeah. Back, I think, last spring. And she turned 17 in September. I think September 28th, I think, was her birthday. And she was ready to take her license on her birthday, and we had it scheduled on her birthday, and the weather wasn't quite good enough to do it, so we pushed it one day, and she got her license the day after she turned 17. So
that's awesome.
It's very, very doable.
Yeah.
You know, she's in high school, and yeah, it was super cool. It was pretty special. And she's been coming back and renting planes for me. She's working on her tailwheel endorsement now, and yeah, so minimum hour requirements. I think you said to get your driver's license, 41 hours.
Yeah, I read that somewhere. 41 hours is what the driver's permit license, to get your license, you have to have 41 hours behind the wheel.
Yeah. So it's only 40 to get your.
So you're telling me
license.
It's less to get a pilot's license than it is to get a driver's license?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty wild.
Yeah.
Now, you know, realistically, I think the national average is somewhere in the mid 60s.
Okay.
So a lot of people take more time than that,
right?
Which is good, probably. But yeah, regulations, you could get it, 40 hours in, and be good to go.
Guys, the flying part of it is not that hard. It's the weather and the wind. That's the hardest part of the flying aspect of this, right? You basically kind of turn into a weatherman, understanding fronts, understanding weather and conditions, wind, visibility, icing, fog. All these different things come to play, and it's the flying. The plane flies itself. You just got to steer it, and it goes to where it wants to go. Safe to say that, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, most of the time when things aren't going well for one of my students during flight, is because they're trying to fly the plane, trying to overfly, and they're overcorrecting. And, if they just kind of take their hands off for a second, or, just have a real light grip on the controls, that's when things smooth out. Yeah, they're super stable. I mean, they're made to be, they want to fly.
Yeah,
they want to be in the air.
They want to be in the air.
Yeah.
Right? And so I get this all the time, too. It's like, well, I don't want to go up in those small planes. They're so scary. Mm-hmm. I don't want to crash. XYZ. They come up with all these different things and say this. But in actuality, right? In actuality, they're not that bad. Some people think that the motor, stops, they're going to fall out of the sky.
Yeah.
That's simply not true.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the things that we practice pre-solo is emergency, power off landing. So we don't shut the engine off completely, but we go to idle, which is like the engine shutting off.
Yeah, no power.
And glide it in and land. And so, I always practice those a lot with new students prior to solo and make sure they can do it. And it's not a real hard maneuver. It's, it becomes a little trickier if you try and land it precisely, like within 50 feet or something.
Right.
That takes some time just a little experience and practice to hone in on, but that's very doable too.
Yeah.
For a commercial check ride, you have to do a spot precision power off landing. And so it's very doable, but yeah, they're made to be in the air. And so if the engine goes, the plane doesn't fall out of the sky.
Yeah.
You can glide for a good ways.
And the other thing is, right, and I've read some, crash analysis, and when they do crash, like the majority of the time, it's not the plane.
No.
It's the pilot, right, making bad decisions.
Starts on the ground.
Yep. And so with that, you're in the air, you're making good decisions. The weather's good. Well, that would be a good decision to go if the weather's good, right? If it's bad, that would be a bad decision, which then would cause an accident.
Yeah.
But, you're up there, you're not really going to have too many problems.
Yeah. And, I tell people that pilots train for the 0.5% time
that it goes wrong.
That things go wrong, and that's what we train for, and that's what all the training is really geared towards. But it's a real small, fraction of the time. If you didn't plan well, the better, and that's a big part of the training, is how to plan to, ahead of time to keep things from going wrong. And if you're half a pilot, then that's where everything starts, is on the ground during the pre-flight preparation. And if you have a good plan and you've looked at your weather briefing and looked at your route of flight, and you've done all your pre-flight inspections and everything, have a good plan going into it. That's what mitigates all the adverse conditions, all the helps to mitigate all the crashes and things going wrong. Because I think it's like over 80% is the percentage of crashes that happen because of human error. People making poor decisions, essentially, or not being proficient when they go up to fly.
Right. Getting things overloaded, not accounting for the too hot of air, not going to create enough lift, and then you put too much weight in it, and then all these different things happen. So it's poor decision making. But poor decision making, the only thing it's just exasperated, but in an airplane than in a car, right? That's the only thing, right?
Can't pull over on the side of the road if you get lost.
You run out of gas. You didn't check the oil, and you run out. Like, those things happen every day on cars, right? Things happen. There's more car crashes every day than there are plane crashes. But things do happen, and that's the thing. Just be prepared for when they do, right? That's all we can do. Things are always going to happen, and in everyday life, something's going to happen. Just be prepared. That's what I love it. That's what we train for, just in everything, right? In football and in sports, we always train for